is Islam at this point needs a reformation. Islam, Yasser Qadhi, I like that guy. He said Islam needs reformation because I don't see Quran as a problem. I don't see Quran itself. There is nothing in Quran which can prompt you if you do not take it out of the way in your own context.
Just some Muslims are being evil. They're doing evil things. And some Muslims think evil things, but don't do them. And I would say most Muslims, particularly the ones that I've met in Israel and in different places, don't want this conflict.
Yeah, and the fact is that they didn't have a better watch on this, like Al Madina Dawa Center in Sydney.
Okay,
is part of the problem. And I looked at their public statement about this. They didn't condemn the attack at all. It was basically just this like 5-page letter being like, you can't prove it was us.
Yeah,
Islam will continue to be triumphant until there have been 12 Khulafa, all of them from Al-Quraysh.
The God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. Nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever.
This is my brother, my executor, and my successor among you, so listen to him and obey.
My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting.
Whoso obeys me obeys God. Whoever disobeys me disobeys God. Whoever disobeys my commander disobeys me.
The Lord said to me, You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession.
Two systems of government, two visions for life on earth. Whichever is true changes everything. This is Christ and Khulafa.
Welcome back to another episode of Christ and Caliphate. We are recording this in the wake of an awful attack in Bondi Beach in Sydney, which has left 15 people dead. I'd rather not talk about things like this right after they have happened, but I really believe it's important to have a measured Christian voice responding to things like this, because inevitably there is a lot of noise around anything like this. So there's been noise. A lot of people have wanted to deny that the shooters were Muslims, and a lot of other people have been trying to deny that the hero who saved some people was Muslim as well. And as Christians, we need to examine the whole truth. And what this incident shows is that most people's narratives of how they measure the world will fall apart pretty quickly when the rubber meets the road, which is why we need to have a holistic view of the truth. So we're going to spend some time talking about the hero. We're going to spend some time talking about the shooters here. And we're going to try and have a discussion about why one religious system can lead to two completely different outcomes. And can any one of these views be viewed as the real Islam, or is it much more complicated than that? So what are your initial thoughts, guys?
I mean, I watched a lot of commentary on it before I watched the actual video. I watched the video of the two shooters on the bridge, eventually being taken out, right? So I tried to detach myself from the commentary and actually go back and watch the footage with my own eyes and make my own judgments based on that, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and initially it was a ton of misinformation coming out. Seems like the facts are all coming out now. And what I saw was two guys who were trained shooters. They were very good at what they were doing. I was talking with someone, if you've ever done a live fire drill, it's one thing completely to sit there with a rifle and, shoot at targets, right? It's another thing completely to shoot at living things. Any hunter will tell you that. And then once you start getting into being able to reload that quickly, and also to be able to return fire, right? So at one point, the cops are shooting at them from two sides of the bridge. Okay. So the sequence of events is they're getting ready to walk over the bridge. They're shooting at people. They walk on the bridge. They're shooting at people. They get to like this kind of, the end of the bridge, right? It's a very short bridge. And they're shooting back and forth at two people. And then the cops show up and start shooting back at them. There was a shooter with a black shirt and white pants. And then there was a shooter with like short sleeve shirt on, and he looked like the younger one. One of them had a hat on and the other one didn't. And the ability for, one of them died, right? One who had the white pants on.
The father
died. And the younger shooter just kept returning fire. So anyone who's ever been in any kind of combat that I've ever talked to, and I've talked to quite a few people who've done that, I've done some trauma counseling for veterans and whatnot, and police officers. When your comrade is dead in front of you, you have to be trained to keep shooting. You have to be trained to get over that shot. Your father is the one dead, right? And you're still shooting. So what happens in a lot of cases is somebody dies, if there's two shooters, and the other one just kind of like chickens out, like runs away, tries to preserve their own life. Survival instinct takes over. So to keep going with that motive in that moment means that you've been conditioned to do that. So first of all, they were very good shots, right? And they were very quick at reloading. And second of all, they were able to endure live fire from multiple angles from the police. These are trained killers. Like, I'm not saying that they're operatives. I'm not saying that they're like, part of, any organized group or anything like that. But at some point, somebody taught these guys how to do what they were going to do. Yeah,
beautiful point. And I'll add on to what you said.
But I think we actually know where that happened.
Yes, in Philippines.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so that brings me to the greater point, right? Like, I have said many times on this show, Islam has a problem, right? It has a problem with people who do these things in the name of Islam. And I've seen some responses that have been like, well, they're not representative of all Muslims. And I completely agree with that. They're not representative of all Muslims, obviously. I have Muslim relatives. They would not do these things, right? Like, but what I would say is you have to take some accountability in a moment like this.
Speaking of accountability, here's some posts on X about this. A well-known Muslim X-personality, Junior Live, says, every single Muslim terrorist is funded by Israel. That's it. That's the tweet. Have a wonderful night. Next one, a guy called Ray Yusuf, says, 95% of all terror is Mossad and Israel. The rest is CIA, other Western intelligence, and Indian RAW. 0% Muslim.
That's denial. Denial is what's keeping them implementing real-time reforms, right? I think when we look at those, I'm not going to go back in history, who did what, Christian did this, Jews did this. The time span that I lived in this world, I see about more than 90% of terrorist attacks are done by Muslims, unfortunately. I use this word, unfortunately. There has to be some way.
And before you go on, anyone who wants to kind of call him a sort of blind Western apologist in this regard, go back, watch him debate us on this.
Yes.
Right? You're not just saying this because you're trying to please anybody.
Right. No, I always defended Islam on all the good things that Islam do. And also I went against the general rhetoric, and today I'm going to go over that too. It's just the first part. That there is two parts in this conversation or debate, or however you want to put it. So let me go back to what I was saying. Is Islam at this point needs a reformation. Islam, Yasser Qadhi, I like that guy. He said Islam needs reformation because I don't see Quran as a problem. I don't see Quran itself. There is nothing in Quran which can prompt you if you do not take it out of the way in your own context. So Quran talks about whoever saves one life saves the whole humanity. Quran talks about the rules of war. When you go out on the war, do not kill children, do not kill women, right? So the Quran is full of those things. There are rules of engaging in war. There are rules not to kill innocent people. So what happens is, the extra material that is outside of Quran, when you take certain verses of Quran and implement in the light of actions in the history, then you have a justification. So in that regard, I would say that Islam needs serious reformation. That's point number one. Point number two is West has to acknowledge that, blaming every single Muslim for actions of few people fuels more hatred. It doesn't help anything. I'm seeing a lot of posts, deport all Muslims, deport these guys, brown guys are the problem, so on and so forth, right? So that kind of itself is like, okay, annihilation. These people are not going to accept us, right? And the point number three, which is very important, and this is the dilemma that a lot of people fall into. When you associate Jews with the state of Israel, I'm repeating again. When you associate Jews with the state of Israel, then people see you as Israelis, not as Jews. There's a difference. I took a long time to differentiate between Jews and the state of Israel. So the state of Israel's actions are not the actions of Jews in the world. Right? So these people, Sajid Akram and whatever Akram, that from their, what you use the word, not justification, but their motivation. Motivation was, this is a revenge. This is a revenge for what they have done in Palestine. This is their reaction. So I think at the end of the day, this is so bad, so evil, right? At the end of the day, it is so horrific to kill innocent people for the actions of some state in the Middle East.
And the way it's done.
Yeah, and the way
it's done. And let's say, and let's say, even if you can't differentiate between Jews and Israelis, let's say you knew with certainty they're all Israelis. You still can't blame all Israelis for the actions of the Israeli government, right?
Exactly.
That would be like somebody attacking a Pakistani Independence Day party in Seattle because they blame Pakistanis for imprisoning Imran Khan.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's still not justified.
Right.
Killing of any Israeli is not justified. But the point what I'm trying to make is a lot of people associate, even themselves, Jews associate that us Jews are all Israelis. No, you are Jews and you're respected for me, and it should be respected for all the people,
I mean, unfortunately, we live in an area and like, if you look back at the past, I don't know, 1,000 years, right? In particular, killing Jews has been in some places like a sport, right? Like, it's just been this long history of, well, the Jews are here, let's drive them out. The Jews are there, let's drive them out. So, the shoe's on the other foot now, unfortunately, in some ways, right? Like, they have a state, they have a military, they're going to not allow that kind of treatment of their people. They will bomb you, they will send the Mossad out, they will assassinate you, they will do things to like stop you from killing Jews, right?
But like the question is,
those actions are, I agree with you, can be extremely unpopular, in the world. And what somebody does in the name of self-preservation, right, is up for debate, right? Like, I would agree with you on that.
Israel is the defendant of all the Jews in the world.
I think that what happens is, like, they are not, obviously not, but I think that the problem is people saying, well, Jews are not, like, all Jews are not Zionists. Like, it's true, all Jews are not Zionists, but a lot of Jews are Zionists. right?
Yes.
So I think that like the thing is we have to get back to, you know, if we're going to go back to Gaza, right? Because let's just go back to the last conflict. You know, what they had to do to put an end to Hamas and Hezbollah and some of these other, you know, the Houthis and everything else like that, like attacking their country, and attacking their sovereignty, and you know, attacking their people, not just in Israel but in other places. You know, and I mean, it doesn't just affect that. So look at what happened in Washington D.C. Right, the two people who got shot by the Free Palestine Marxist outside of the museum in Washington D.C. were not Israelis, but they were executed like they were Israelis.
Yeah,
So-
that's the
so
problem.
this is-
That's the
I think-
dilemma. That's the
I think
core of the problem.
So,
I
so
guess.
the more Jews get attacked in countries that are not Israel, and the less these countries do to protect those populations, the more it becomes true that Israel is the place that protects Jews, right?
Right. And I think
whereas if other countries were doing a better job at that, they couldn't make that claim so loudly.
look at what's going on in Australia, right? Like there are so many clips on X right now of people walking around in the past 2 years since 2023 shouting "Gas the Jews." I just watched the clip on the way over here of somebody outside of the embassy in Australia talking about how like the cancer of Israel needs to be erased from the Middle East, right? Like, so you're talking about wiping out, you know, millions of people in an area. I just saw other posts that like led me to that conversation that were like, there's no room for any Jews in the Middle East, right? So that the land is completely Palestine. And these are like people with PhDs, and these are people who are they're educated people. So look, the question to me isn't so much about what some Muslims are doing. Because some Muslims are being evil. They're doing evil things. And some Muslims think evil things, but don't do them. And I would say most Muslims, particularly the ones that I've met in Israel and in different places, don't want this conflict. So what I would say is maybe it's an Australia problem, right? Like, and then on top of that, like Australia and the way that Australia like allowed some of this like rhetoric to go on, fed the worst elements.
Yeah, I think you have all the rights to critique and criticize the policies of Israel as a nation,
Absolutely.
as a country, not as a nation, sorry,
Right.
as a country, you know, because it is an existing country who do some actions. And I openly say that I disagree with the many actions that the state of Israel does. And I count them as worst actions can be done by any state, right? So when people critique the government of Israel, it should not become critique on Jews, because you do not mix those two things. State of Israel is a different thing than the Jews itself. It's just similar to saying that if I criticize Saudi Arabia, or let me give you a more concrete example, which is in parallel to Israel, Pakistan, because Pakistan was also founded on the foundation of Islam. Right. Similarly, the Israel was founded on the principles of Judaism. Pakistan was established on the name of Islam. So if you say that the policies of Pakistans are evil, does not mean, or unilaterally not saying that Islam is evil. Right. So there has to be a difference in that.
Right. So going back to the sort of ideology, right, and you're talking about the need for an Islamic reformation. I want to read you guys a hadith which factors in here, because this Naveed is the son's name, right?
Mm-hmm. Naveed Akram.
Naveed Akram was a known attendee of a sort of masjid and dawah group where a guy called Wasim Haddad was the imam and a sort of key leader in this. And
He's still there?
he got arrested a couple months ago.
Okay.
But the center itself is still there. The organization still exists and operates. And I saw a clip of him reading this hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari 2926. Right? This is not an obscure reference somewhere, right? This is very key Sunni hadith. It says, Allah's messenger said, "The hour will not be established until you fight with the Jews, and the stone behind which a Jew will be hiding will say, "Oh, Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me, so kill him."
Yeah, which is, I would say, also
That is way
most,
out of the context.
what
By the way.
most people, unfortunately, that's their exposure to. Like, you know how like the pothead has like a one sentence theology,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, the Lord God made a seed and everything that's good for it, right? Like, and that's all that they believe, and they take it out of context.
Sure. Okay. So let's talk about the context. That's important. But again, as you read it in the Hadith, it does not come with its context.
I mean, if you go back to the previous hadith or the continuation of hadith, I think the chapter that is mentioned, I think it will give you the more context. Because when I hear this hadith, I see the end of time. This is mentioned in the context of end of time, when Jesus will come, and then, you know, afterward there will be a fight against Antichrist, Dajjal, right? And according to Islamic, I'm not saying the Quran, but Islamic theory, you know, Jews will be siding with Antichrist. And then in that context, you got to kill every Jew that is hiding behind that tree. And they're planting those trees, and the trees will call their name, and they're hiding behind me. So it is in the context of end of time. But you can spin it either way.
Okay, so the hadith next to it is Allah's Messenger said, "The hour will not be established until you fight the Turks, people with small eyes, red faces, and flat noses. Their faces will look like shields coated in leather. The hour will not be established until you fight people whose shoes are made of hair." You passed that one at least.
So we're talking about.
I have small eyes.
So what?
I have flat nose.
So, so what I would say there,
I would
right,
say bring it.
is the way you're raised makes that the context. The hadith itself doesn't give that as a context.
Right.
So the way it's constructed,
Cherry picking.
yeah, but it's, you know, it's not like when it's cherry picking, it's not on a tree. It's just in like a row of singular cherries that you have to figure out how they fit back onto the tree.
So if you take one hadith to fit your, that's what I say, you know, you take Quran, and then you fit some of the hadith that suits your narrative, then you can build any narrative, right?
Yeah, of course. So if you try and make it a coherent whole, that certainly helps. But you could still, but I think the ISIS-aligned people would all say, yeah, this is about the end of times. We are here to bring about the end of times. That's why we're fighting the Jews.
Yeah, and I would like to mention, going back to what he said, you know, that the comrade was dead and still he was fighting. That shows that these people are not normal people. They
I mean, not just your comrade, your dad.
yeah, your dad.
Like, your dad
is dead in front of your
is
eyes,
dead in front of you.
and you're still attacking or killing
If
people.
you watch the thing, I mean, dead.
Yes.
Not like moving around, not like, oh, you know,
like
dead.
cold,
Like
yes.
cold dead.
Yes,
Like,
and still you keep on shooting. It means that
and then not just shooting, like shooting, reloading, at least twice.
yeah,
Right. So, you know,
the point. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
you
I'm
there.
sorry to interrupt you. Yeah.
The point I was trying to make is they have gone past the human values, the basic human values. So I don't see, I mean, Muslims in general, for example, the guy who saved one of the gunmen, he pinned down one of the gunmen, right?
Ahmed El Ahmed.
Ahmed El Ahmed.
He didn't just pin him down. He wrestled the gun off him
Yes,
and pointed it at him.
yes. I mean, like that, because that's why the death toll is less, I
Yes,
guess. One.
right.
So the credit is there on his end, right?
I mean, it was a Jewish couple that tried to stop them before that guy did too, and they got shot.
Yeah. So the point what I'm trying to make is that Islam as a whole is just like any other religion, right? For example, let me give you another example. Who to blame for the Christchurch attack in New Zealand?
I think I remember that being a left-wing eco-terrorist with a manifesto.
Yeah.
Was it not Christian?
No, not in any way.
Not in any way.
Okay. What echoed in Muslim world that this was attacked by a Christian person. So that's how the misinformation spreads across, right?
Right.
And that is exactly what's happening in this country. I'm seeing, you know, people are just so afraid of being someone having the Muslims by their as neighbors. Oh, these guys are taking over. These guys are gonna take over India, Pakistan, and United States.
Listen,
and, you know,
I think it's a bad time to be anything in America right now. Like, unless you're like if you're far left, you're going to get all the media shows. If you're far right, you're going to get a hardcore following on Twitter. And the far right is like Jews are bad, and the far left is like Jews are bad, Israel's bad. So, and then, but not Jews, and because some of them are Jews. So, what we're kind of left with is this wash, you know.
No, sorry, I will disagree with you here. A lot of hate towards Muslim is not coming from left. A lot of hate is coming from Christians. Christians who are told to love their enemies, who are told to love your neighbors and sojourners and foreigners in your land. A lot of that is coming from Christians. I don't know why, because I expect Christians to act more loving towards their enemies than what the left is doing.
I mean, to be fair, so if we're going to go to the far right, and I agree with you, Christians are doing those things.
And I would say,
they're also throwing the Jews under the bus too. I think that what's happened is like a kind of cancerous element, you know, is spread. Like, I mean, honestly, like without getting into too deep of it, like the spirituality of it all, which I think does play into effect here. You know, we're talking about end times level stuff, right? Like, I'm not saying the end times are tomorrow, but I am saying that there's demonic activity out there. I would say when two guys, a dad and a son, right? Like go and grab rifles and say, we're going to kill a bunch of Jews, right? Like, regardless of the religion, you know, regardless of whatever, take the religion out of it, you know, we're going to go kill a bunch of people. Like, something spiritual led you to that point, you know, it used ideas that were in the world to turn you into a killer.
Victim mentality.
Yeah. Sure. So I think like what we can't afford to do, right? Like, we can't afford to look at Muslims and say all Muslims are the problem. We can't afford to look at Jews and say that all Jews are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We can't afford, right? Like, I think the thing that helps this situation more than anything in a governmental sense, in a spiritual sense, right? In a religious sense, in a political sense, is accountability. Like, you just have to get back to accountability. You have to get back to this thing of saying, like, Muslims need to own the fact that these guys are Muslims.
Yes.
Right? They need to own it, right? And, you know,
and West need to own Muslims too and say that they are part of this country. They are not something that need to be sent back.
Right. And this gives us
and like leftist governments in Europe and Australia and all this other stuff, they need to own the fact that they're allowing toxicity, you know, to be spread against one group, and it's gonna like affect other groups. Right. So, and it's the same thing, right? Or left, right? Like, if you go after people that you perceive to be a problem as immigrants, right? Like from Mexico or Pakistan or Turkey or whatever, you know, like, what's next? You're going to eventually run out of scapegoats.
And I would say this event gives people the perfect opportunity, and the rational response here is to think, we do not want Sajid Akrams and Navid Akrams in our countries, and we absolutely want Ahmed El Ahmeds in our countries, right?
Right.
This is the opportunity presented to us here.
I mean, I would buy that guy a beer, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't drink. So buy him some tea.
The Australians have given that guy like $2 million already.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But I would say also too, like, you know, don't forget the victims either, right? Like, he's gotten a ton of money and he deserves it, you know, but the victims are also like trying to bury their dead, and they need help too.
Yeah, surely. And one of the victims was Holocaust survivor. When I read that, I mean, like, my heart fell halfway through.
He survived that.
And now
to die in a park, you know?
And so here's what I would say that this setup points to with the ideology here, right? And so this isn't just a crazy person. This is a malevolent ideology that crosses national borders that these people are into. And not all Muslims share in that ideology, but I would say too many people have a soft corner for it. And then there's other people who have a soft corner for the people who have a soft corner for those people, right? So the problem you have in the Muslim world is you have a lot of like ideologically porous borders. So you have a guy called, you have a young 19-year-old guy who's talking about like crazy conspiracy theories and, jihad and stuff like that. And a lot of people's reaction is, you know what, he's young, he'll grow out of it.
Yeah,
Which happens sometimes, but that's
you got to tackle that.
It's two laps. And so again, with the thing that happened in DC, it could very well just be one guy having a mental breakdown. That's not what this is. This is a father and son colluding to do this together.
And they planned it. They went to get the training from.
Yeah, and in Mindanao, right? And no one goes on vacation to Mindanao.
Yes.
They live in Bondi Beach, one of the nicest beaches in the world. They're not going to Mindanao for the weather. They're going there because there are Muslim militant groups there who are fighting against the Filipino government.
Right. Yes, true.
Right.
And they got their training from there. And
And where's Australian intelligence on that? Right. It means they're not looking.
Well, yeah, there were laps. So one thing here, which is just like crazy, is the kid was on a terror watch list and his dad was a registered gun owner in Australia. How the heck
do that? How is that possible?
Like, I get that I get that that you don't want to like attack a father for the sins of his son, but oh my word, how was that missed? Right.
I think
there has to be vetting. I think
I heard that they like in response, they went like, we're going to do more gun control. And I'm not trying to turn it into a debate of gun control, but maybe just look at situations like that, like maybe go back over like, and they have a lot more comprehensive like gun control than we do. Right. But maybe just go and see like terror list guy living with gun owner. No, not good.
Yeah.
I like to imagine this guy at the shooting range standing next to everybody being like, Allahu Akbar, die infidels, as he shoots a target. And the Australian government is like, well, he has a proper paperwork. He's completely allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I would say this at the end of the day, that no matter who it is, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, if they have extremist tendencies, they should be properly under watch list or under a watch, so that I don't think it takes one particular religion.
Yes, you're right, but I mean, here's the $1 million question. This is I agree with you completely. What do people do when they're like, all right, but you said it earlier, right? Like 90% of them are Muslims.
Do you know the reason?
Well, it doesn't matter to me the reason as much as...
The reason is because it's Israel funding everybody.
Well, it's like, so I'm not trying to get into like the reasoning. The point is that they're doing it. So if you're like in a law enforcement capacity, you can't fix the world. You just have to go after whoever is a possible criminal and say, I don't want you to commit crimes. Like, you can kind of see like, well, what's the reason? Why are they doing that? As like a deflection to accountability. I'm not saying you're deflecting, but I'm saying that like, come on, man. Like, if we're going to own it, we have to own it. We have to say like, if you're going to empower law enforcement to do what you just did, you're going to inevitably have to look at a Muslim. Sure. In America, we have so many different ethnicities, right? And if the same situation exists in America, and that person is not a Muslim and say they're a Christian, I don't know, right? I don't know why, like, but again, tendencies being tendencies and statistics being statistics, statistically speaking, there are not like a ton of Christians on terror watch lists, but there are Muslims.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So how do you maneuver that? Because I think what happens is everybody still winds up landing on the same places on the chessboard. It's Islamophobia over here, and then government overreach over here, or whatever, right? Like whatever pieces. So if you're gonna do what you guys just said, you have to inevitably look at who's going to be on the list, and who right now, who's on the list is Muslims. So how do you get around the Islamophobia element of it?
So I think the key,
while still like pursuing accountability.
Yes, so I think the key to this is not seeing this as Islam, but a specific stream of thought within Islam, right? So for example, that hadith we just read, right?
I like that.
Some people are going to say, well, you know, there's a proper context for this, and this doesn't mean we can start hostilities, right? That's an entirely reasonable thing to think. Or you can do what Saudi Arabia does and say the only hadith which are really valid are the Mutawatir hadith, which completely cuts this one out.
Right.
That's another way to deal with that.
Right.
Right. But then the people doing this are people who are reading hadith which glorify above all else death in battle in the cause of Allah, death in jihad, martyrdom, right? You go straight to paradise. You get the 72 virgins. You get to intercede for 70 of your relatives who are still alive. You skip the punishment of the grave. You skip the Sirat bridge. You skip the scales of judgment. You have, you know, the best possible outcome.
Golden pass.
Right.
Yeah.
But mix that with this conspiratorial thinking that thinks every single thing is just giant conspiracy against Muslims, and everyone's thinking about them all the time and planning against them all the time. And you put those things together with a bit of, you know, tenacity and some money and some resources, then that's a recipe for disaster, right? That stream of Islam is what I would blame. And there are Muslims who have done a good job differentiating themselves from that, right? The Saudis have done a good job. Sheikh Yasser Qadhi has done a good job.
And I think majority of Muslims do so. And going back to why I need a reason, and because Muslims, majority of them living in victim mindset. That's why in the beginning of this show, I said Islam needs reformation, because you have to come out of the state of victim. Because in a lot of Muslims' brain, all the world, particularly the West and Israel and Mossad and Raw and all, they are sitting in a room trying to finish Islam.
Right.
So that is the mindset that leads to that stream of extremism. Right? If you are content that no, my religious freedom is my constitutional right, right? I can go to a mosque and practice Muslim, but on my way, if I am attacked,
I think, yeah.
Right? Then you know,
the sad part is there are ways to end Islam for the most part and its influence on the world, and they all involve nukes. And then the nukes coming back, like being pointed back the other way. And then, like, you know, I think a lot of times we get like people from religions who are stuck in this like kind of apocalyptic mindset, you know, where, like you said it earlier, you know, like I'm the apocalypse is coming anyway. I might as well do something about it now. You know, in hardcore, like right-wing conservative Christian circles, it's preppers, right? Like, I'm just going to buy as many guns and buy as, you know, and I'm going to get bottled water, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to hole up on a mountain, and I'm going to wait for the apocalypse and let them come and try and take it.
And I like that analysis, because that victim mentality is so key. Because you look at, you know, Ahmed El Ahmed, for example, he is an actual victim of having to flee Idlib in Syria.
Right.
Yeah. He didn't have a victim mentality. He moved to Australia. He became a business owner, and then, you know, steps up and just, you know, and when they're filming him from the hospital, he's just like, "Oh, I'm fine, guys." Thanks for concern. Right. That's
majority of the Muslims. Again, the Muslims population is so big. When we talk about minority, that number is also
a tiny minority of a 2 billion population is dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so right, no, I know. Even if it's like 1%, that's a lot of people.
Right. So,
and they can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's again the point. My last comment on this is Islam is in need of serious reformation. It has not to come through us by telling them what they need to do. Is Muslim scholars need to stand up. Muslim critics need to stand up. People who understand Islam need to stand up and say that there are problems and we need to align ourselves on the modern values. Saudi is leading. I think Saudi need to gear up furthermore on this particular, because at the end of the day, when these type of things happen, the West, or I would say the world, the reaction is all Muslims are bad.
Right.
And that doesn't seclude Saudis or Emiratis. Right.
Yeah, people in the West need to look carefully. I was talking with a guy on X earlier who's saying that, you know, why aren't any Muslims condemning this? I'm like, are you? It's because
because you're not looking.
yeah, because you're not looking.
You got to look outside of Fox News.
You're not looking. It's not even just Fox News. It's like, the problem is the loudest voices in condemning it in the United States, condemning the attack or whatever, are all like liberals, who write for the New York Times and
even that guy, the Pashtun Muslim scholar from California, Sheikh Uthman.
Yeah,
I saw his video. He was condemning it.
I saw a bunch of Muslims condemning it.
Yeah,
and they were very sincere and very eloquent, and it was thoughtful. It was real. I
would say this, Ibaris, if you find someone applauding it, then you have to have very close watch on that person.
yeah, and the fact is that they didn't have a better watch on this like Al Medina Dawa Center in Sydney.
Okay,
is part of the problem. And I looked at their public statement about this. They didn't condemn the attack at all. It was basically just this like 5-page letter being like, you can't prove it was us.
Yeah, I saw this one. I think it was. I can't remember if it was Imam Tawhidi. I think it was Imam Tawhidi, who is in Australia. And he said, or somebody said on a panel with him, I don't know, maybe he wasn't even involved, but somebody was saying that what has happened in Australia is that all of the Islamic centers, and this was a serious Muslim saying this, all of the Islamic centers in Australia have been tainted by this ideology. And the only way to make it stop is to dismantle them and to bring in like actual scholars, right? Like, who, practice like proper hadith science and are like not funded by, certain funding sources. Like you have to start over with the Islamic centers, and then you have to educate, right? But that's an interesting point, right? Like the Islamic Center is not disavowing it, right? And if there's one, that there are two.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, like for sure. And again, I see this, here in our local area. I'd say most of the big Muslim organizations are not extremists in any way and hate this kind of thing. But then they have a soft corner for kinds of people who celebrate.
No, I mean, listen, this is the problem I've had with my family, right? Like bad stuff happens, Muslims do it, right? It finds out that Muslims are behind it, and it's like, well, they're Muslims, right? Like but if a Jew were to do it, right, or a Christian were to do it, it's like the chest beating, the anger, the outrage. And I think that's what, part of the reason it's like, and I'm not talking about all Muslims, but I am talking about my family, and this has been my
first-hand reaction. Sorry.
Yeah.
First-hand reaction. My family, part of my family is in Australia.
Yeah.
I woke up to this news. They're Muslims, very practiced
Are they
Muslims.
okay? Do they live in there?
Yeah, they're in Perth.
Okay.
What they said is there's an attack on Jews, and they were upset about it.
Yeah.
Right? Initially, there was like a Pakistani is involved, and Israeli media, Indian media was all up because, of course, there is some political narrative behind it. The Pakistanis are that. And then it turned out it was not Pakistani, but my dad, my brother, everybody, the first reaction was very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think first-hand experience in most of the Muslims, in their brain, is when they see these kind of atrocities, they do not associate. Of course, they're ill-minded people who are just like, okay, if it's Muslim, oh, no, it must be some reaction. No, generally, I'm giving you an account of majority Muslim. Again, given the caveat that minority also makes a big number. Right. Majority of Muslims do not like these kind of actions because it reflects them.
I agree, but I'm saying the soft corner. If it's a minority, right? Sure. So let's just say it's 1% of 2 billion people. If the soft corner is 10%, right? That's a big problem. Right. So there can't be any room for it.
So and here's actually what I think are legitimate cultural things we can do to make this better. So Muslims, especially in the West, have a great sense of solidarity, which sometimes means they show solidarity towards the wrong people, because they're used to being called terrorists and defending each other when that happens. Sometimes when a terrorist is called a terrorist, they accidentally defend those people too, just as kind of like a reflex action. So they need to get a hold of that. And what we can do to help that is make it less necessary for them to feel like they need to do that too. The nicer we are to Muslims, the better we are at differentiating between ideologies within Islam, then the less they feel like they have to defend themselves from us, the more we can all work together to make the world a better place. So guys, thank you for listening to Christ and Caliphate. These are important things for us to be thinking about. I'm not asking you to agree with every single thing that's been said on this show today, but what I am asking you to do is to think deeply about this. Don't buy into nonsense conspiracy theories and simplistic explanations. God requires more from you. Until next time.